It's one action, as we discussed in detail. So then you're allowed. We said that this trick of doing one action and it's for both days, even though you don't need to have any food for that day, but you plan to eat from it, we said it's permitted only if it's done before the meal, not after the meal. But what if someone, okay, so now we're going to discuss what if someone did that after the meal. Is everyone following this from yesterday? Yeah? Mm-hmm. You're doing this, but the meal is over. Says you can't do it. But if someone did do it after the meal, they say, "Oh, you heard, you can make a trick. I'll cook for both days for today and tomorrow, and I'll eat some of it now." But it's after the meal already. You can't do it. But if someone did do it with intention to eat from it, so bid the Eved, if they eat from it, it's fine. It's okay. It's not okay what they did. But once they did it already and they intended to eat from it, let them eat from it a little bit, and then that's okay. We'll be able to eat from it tomorrow also. Now, what if someone did this trick? What we call it? Yeah, it's wrong, not me. So you did it before the meal, the way you're supposed to do it, with intention to eat from it, but you didn't end up eating from it because it's really for tomorrow. You intended, okay, it'll be for today. It'll be one action for both days, and I'll eat from it during the meal. And they forgot they didn't eat from it. So then what happens? Comes the next day and they can't eat from it. Please understand the question?
Yeah.
They didn't actually eat from it today. So you say they intended?
Yeah.
Good, that's correct. They intended to eat from it. The intention was to eat, so it's good. But if they did it after the meal, which you're not supposed to, just mentioned before, we said it's okay if they eat from it, then they have to eat from it. If you do it after the meal, you intend to eat from it today, and you don't end up eating from it, again, you're not supposed to do it. It's talking about if someone did it after the meal with the intention to eat from it today. But they didn't end up eating from it, then it doesn't work because they did it the wrong way. It's supposed to be done before the meal. It's not a time that people eat. You already finished the meal. So even though you intended to eat from it today, but if you didn't actually eat from it, it doesn't work. Get it? No, yeah.
It's like in an instance if that were to happen where someone makes it out for the meal and they
So
are
makes
eating it but don't. In that scenario, like, can you eat the food after Yom Tov?
of course. I mean, if you
Like if you make it after the meal and you intend to eat it but you don't.
then you can't eat from it from the following day. You could eat it after Yom Tov. Yes, you could. Actually, more than that, because we mentioned yesterday. You remember we mentioned yesterday about the aroma. If you did that trick the wrong way, you prepared two pots of food of the same food, and you don't really need the food today, but you plan to eat, but it's two actions. That doesn't work. And because he used a leniency that Chacham gave us and he used it the wrong way, so I'm very strict with that, because if we give any leeway in such a situation, people will say, "Oh, it's okay to do this when we're totally off." So here Chacham were very strict. Chacham said, no one can ever eat from this food. Forever. I mean, no one who was intended for it. Anyone from this household who was cooked for them, they will never be able to eat that food. However, the interesting thing is, if someone, let's say, cooks on Yom Tov for the following day, for the weekday, or if someone cooks, let's say, on the first day for the second day, Yom Tov, which is clearly not allowed. But within Chacham did not give any penalty. So when it came to Yom Tov, Chacham were more lenient with giving a knas, a penalty, because Yom Tov, so Yom Tov is not as severe as Shabbos in terms of the Torah, in terms of penalties of the Torah. It's not as severe as Shabbos. Chachamim did not give the same level of knas or penalty to Yom Tov like to Shabbos, with the exception we just mentioned before. But in a regular situation, regular meaning when someone did something that's actually clearly prohibited, which is interesting. It's sort of ironic, but it's not. The point is, someone did something clearly prohibited. He cooked on Yom Tov for the following day. He cooked on Yom Tov for the weekday. They didn't give a penalty. They felt Yom Tov, only in Shabbos because it's stricter in the Torah. The punishment in the Torah is more stricter. So they and also they said, people are aware that they did something wrong. We're not concerned that if we're going to be lenient, people say, oh, it's okay to do it because people know you're not allowed to do it. So they actually did not give a penalty. So it's prohibited, but if someone does, there's no penalty that you can't eat the food the following day. Only in the case when you're using a leniency that Chachamim gave you and you're taking it out of context, which if we're going to be lenient, that can lead people to say, oh, it's okay to do it. This is the right way to do it. They said, no way. So if someone cooks on the first day Yom Tov or the second day Yom Tov, they could benefit the following day. But if someone does the trick where he cooks 2 pots of food to make it permitted, so to say, and he plans to eat from it on Yom Tov, and he ate from it. He ate from both pots. But this is clearly not allowed because it doesn't make any sense. It's only doing one action for both days, and you eat from it on that day. Eating from it, cooking 2 pots of the same type of food, it makes no sense. So for there, Chachamim very soon they said you can never benefit. Okay. What's we going to speak about? Oh, what happens if someone? What happens if someone did not put okay, someone didn't put Erev Tashilin, so we discussed what you could do. That was the whole conversation. Someone didn't Erev Tashilin, what you could do with Friday Tashilin. But let's say that options are gone, right? Someone didn't do Erev Tashilin, they have ways how to cook from Friday to Shabbos in a permitted way, the same like from first day to the second day. But it doesn't necessarily always work, because if it's you already ate the meal, what do you do now? So we already said, first of all, someone did not do Erev Tashilin, you speak to the Rav, you find out if you could rely on the Erev Tashilin of the Rav. If not, if the halach is, let's say you can't rely, then the Chachamim allow you to cook 1 pot of food, like 1 candle, like minimal, they allow you.
What happened from I to the problem don't go and ask about it?
Which rabbi
We
could
come to them in the house and like no, actually we have issues and we have to like rather agree with like different rabbis, but is there like one specific rabbi who would come for this purpose?
So generally the way it works is many times you can find, put it this way, you're asking a question which is, it's not a black and white question, you know? Like who could you come to, when could you come to? It's basically you come,
I don't know what
I mean, you're not going to come 2 o'clock in the morning, right? So you come usually at a time when you know they're having a meal, like after davening. You're not going to come smack in the middle of the day when you might be disturbing them. It depends. You have to use your intuition to figure it out.
Okay.
I mean, you can always find,
Just knock the random.
you find out, I mean, usually you know which show, you find people, where does he daven, and then you come to the person and you find them in show, right? Some of the husband to show or whatever, or you come to the house like right after daven, so you know they're eating the meal, you're not disturbing, their nap or something, whatever. But you figure it out. They do have a list in the community of abundance ask questions, like urgent situations, like other shilas also. We do have a list of hours to come, but you figure it out, huh? I don't know where it is. It's
The stickers list.
no, I don't know where it is. They put a list together, but of hours when to come. If I find it, I'll let you know. Okay, what a question?
So we can't, if in the case that we have two pots, do two actions, shouldn't have done that, cannot benefit. And, yeah,
Now, people who wasn't cooked for out of the house could eat from it. It's just for the people in the house who was done for, they can't eat from it. But for other people, it's okay,
okay,
which is not practical. I'm just pointing it out.
okay, that answers one of my questions. So similarly. So are we allowed, like, is a non-Jew able to benefit from it, and can a non-Jew even be invited for Rosh Hashanah?
A non-Jew benefit from this food that you're not allowed to eat.
Yeah, and,
And could you invite a non-Jew to your house? So it's a question within a question.
Yeah.
It's good questions, but it's a lot of questions pushed together.
Yeah.
Let's take one question at a time. Could a non-Jew eat from it? So 1 second, it's not, really it goes together with inviting a non-Jew. Let's talk about inviting a non-Jew. Could you invite a non-Jew to your house on Yom Tov?
you can.
So the halacha is, right, so the halacha is like this. We learn from the Torah that you're not, very interesting halacha, that because you're allowed to cook, in other words, Shabbos you can't cook at all. Yom Tov, Torah said you could cook for the benefit for Yom Tov, but only for yourself. In other words, for the Jews who are keeping Yom Tov. So you can't cook for a non-Jew. Because of that, the Chacham said, we prohibit you to invite a non-Jew to your house on Yom Tov. Shabbos, yes, Yom Tov, no. You're not allowed to invite a non-Jew to your house to kneel on Yom Tov. Why? Because you might come to cook for him. Because what happens is many times you have a lot of guests showing up. Oh, I'm not sure. I don't know if it's going to be enough. When you cook more, you might cook for the non-Jew. So you cannot invite a non-Jew to your house on Yom Tov. Now, I said invite. I didn't say you can't give them to eat. You can't invite them. If they come uninvited, you could give them to eat. You can't invite them, but they could come uninvited. How do you like that? They could come uninvited. So the issue is you inviting them. Now, if they come uninvited, could you give them to eat from this food? I don't think it's a problem. It's privilege free. You didn't say you can't. Personally, yeah, because sure it's not. Oh, sure it's okay because you could give it to other Jews too, right? It's only for the people who was done for. You're giving a knas, you shouldn't benefit from your actions. So it's only for those who was done. Who was done for whom? For the people who are invited to this house. You could give it to other Jews in other houses. So the non-Jew that wasn't invited, sure, you could give it to them. Not a problem.
Does telling a non-Jew, oh, we're having a meal at this time without an invitation count as an invitation?
I'm not sure. It's a little, it sounds borderline, like, you're letting him know, I'm waiting till he know that I'm having a meal this time. I'm not sure, actually. I haven't looked into it, and, I would lean towards no. So it sounds like an invitation. Invitations to mean is to be, I invite you. You're letting him, that's another way of inviting someone, telling him, that's the time of the meal.
Or if they ask if they can come.
If they ask, they could come. Because they know they know about the meal, they know what time you're having the meal, and say, can I come? I have to look it up. I'm gonna try to keep it in mind. Look it up. If they ask you, I have to look it up, trying to go into the details. I don't have all the details now. Start looking into it, yeah.
But so then if someone forgot to make their air touch on, and we're talking about this, like, if it's one act or the aroma, like, they would have to do these things the first day to cook for the second, and the second day to cook the Shabbos, right? They have to do it twice.
Have to do it twice.
Or not have to, but
They could do
they?
it twice. In other words, whatever we discussed on halachos, how we do one action, or according to some opinions, do the arama,
Yeah,
applies both from first, second to Yom Tov to Shabbos.
Yeah.
By the way, it also applies from Yom Tov to weekday. It's just that it's not why would someone do it? But halachically, it's the same concept. Obviously, especially obviously with harama, which is not preferable, it's not ideal method to do harama. You don't want to do it from Yom Tov to weekday because what for? You can cook during the week.
Someone could use this both days, like if they need.
In other words, cooking the one act is the chatchila. The trick, harama is, it never says that it's better to be strict. Now, this is a God-fearing person should refrain from using this method, but Al never says it's okay, you could. Okay, now, I don't know if I discussed this about Erev Tavshilin, if you're not part of the household, so if, let's say a married couple, they're sleeping in their house, or they're eating at someone else's house, so they still have to do an Erev Tavshilin. They cannot be included with Erev Tavshilin of the household that they're eating by, because they're not really part of the household, just going there to eat. They're not sleeping there. If they're sleeping there, it's different. Then they're part of the household, and even then, they should notify their host to have in mind. But if they're not sleeping there, they're just eating there, they're not part of the household. They cannot be included with the Erev Tavshilin. They cannot tell them, I have me in mind because I'm coming to eat with you. They're not part of the household. You sleep somewhere else. And then they need an Erev Tavshilin because even though they're not cooking, let's say, but they're lighting candles. And we mentioned that there is a machlokes, there's an argument whether you could make an Erev Tavshilin just for candles. In other words, the machlokes is they're unique just for lighting candles. A lot of opinions seem to hold that you could do for lighting candles. It seems Al Never also hold this way, but for those that say that it's better if you do Erev Tavshilin because you need to light candles, to also keep in mind when it comes to second day of Yom Tov, also to cook something, like cook some water, so you also use Erev Tavshilin for cooking too. That's preferable way. But those who use it do Erev Tavshilin just for candles, it's accepted. Yes.
I wanted to ask, you mentioned like this is the difference if we're sleeping over or just going to sleep. That reminded me, like in my Chabad house in Arizona, what they would do is they would turn the fires on before Yom Tov and then have like Zion cook. And then we would put in like anything that needed to go into the oven or whatever. So
You would put anything that's not in the oven?
yeah, like they would ask for like a Jew to like put some stuff into the oven.
Even because of Bishalakum,
Yeah.
but they put on the fire already.
Yeah, I don't know why they did that. But the main question is like, would that be okay if they put the fire on the guy in so would they be required to have an air top chilling? That situation?
Yes, absolutely. Because if you don't have native tavshilin, not only you can't cook the food, you can't have other people cook for you also. I mean, the same question could be asked about other Jews. You didn't make a native tavshilin. Oh, you have a friend who made native tavshilin. Yom Tov, in other words, it's Jews could also cook on Yom Tov. Just you can't because you didn't make a native tavshilin. Could you ask the other Jews to cook food for you? The answer is no. Because being you didn't make it into shilin, so your food is not allowed to be cooked by anyone else. Now, what you could do is you could take all your food and give it as a gift to your friend. It's a gift, and it's their food, and then they're allowed to cook it for. I don't know if you can say for you. They're cooking it. It's their food. If they're nice enough, they'll let you have the food, but officially it's their food. So you're giving it to them, and if they're smart enough to be nice, that it's really you need the food for yourself, and it's for you, they'll they'll let you take the food, but really what you're doing is you have to give them as a gift. And then that, because they can't, in other words, because you didn't do native to Shilin, your food is prohibited to be cooked by anyone. Okay, so we're gonna go now to some halachas of Yom Tov. General halachas of Yom Tov, which apply to Shoshana, Sukkot, Pesach, Shavuos, not Yom Kippur, because Yom Kippur is like Shabbos. The general halachas of Yom Tov. So you'll know already that you're allowed to cook on Yom Tov. What else are you allowed to do on Yom Tov besides cooking? Carrying, you're allowed to make a fire, you're allowed to make a fire higher, you can't make a lower. These are, I think, basic halachas that you know, right? But what about separating? You know, when you cut up a vegetable salad, you're separating the bad from the good. You know, on Shabbos, there's all the halachas about separating the bad from the good. You don't take the good from the bad, you don't eat right away. You're familiar with that, right? How does it carry over to Yom Tov? How does it work for Yom Tov when it comes to like separating bad from good and all the restrictions? Like when you make a vegetable salad on Shabbos, you may be familiar that it involves separating because you're cutting up the pepper and the tomatoes and you're separating bad from good, right? So you may be familiar, and if not, you're going to be familiar now, that you're supposed to cut up the vegetable salad when you come back from Shom before the meal, not before you go to Shom. Because you're separating, you can only separate right before the meal. How does this carry over to Yom Tov? And we say Yom Tov, you can do anything you want. You're allowed to cook. So is the same thing?
Oh, that's what we're saying about the vegetables.
Then what?
I would say no.
No what?
Can't separate on Yom Tov.
So
Yes.
it's the same like Shabbos.
Yeah.
So in other words, for Yom Tov, it's only for cooking and carrying. So you're allowed to prepare food, cooking food, but not separating food. Okay, so the answer is, it's not exactly like Shabbos. You are, in this specific example of a vegetable salad, there's no restriction. You're allowed to separate. And the way it works is like this. If there's an advantage to doing it on Yom Tov as opposed to before Yom Tov, for example, cooking. Is there advantage to cook fresh food on Yom Tov as opposed to cooking it before Yom Tov?
Yeah.
That's why the Chachamim did not prohibit us to cook on Yom Tov. There's an advantage to it. Otherwise, the Chachamim would prohibit us to cook on Yom Tov because they want us to enjoy Yom Tov, not to be busy on Yom Tov. So because it's an advantage to having fresh food on Yom Tov, so they allow us to cook on Yom Tov. So the same thing also. Cutting up a fresh vegetable salad. Is it better to do it on Yom Tov than do it the day before Yom Tov? Sure, that's why it's okay. But if there's no advantage, then you cannot do separating. So let's say you have a bunch of different nuts mixed together, cashews and almonds and all the different types all mixed together. And you want to separate it. It's having the party, so you want to separate it. You could have done it before. It tastes better when you separate it on Yom Tov. So you could have done it before Yom Tov. So now it's going to be the same like Shabbos. The same ones like Shabbos, which may be familiar, that's only before the time of the meal, before the time of the party, not in advance. Because there's no advantage doing it on Yom Tov. That's generally how it works.
Is there so you want to look your best on Yom Tov? Is there an advantage to picking out clothes, or should you do it and with the same mindset of this is food, this is waste, like you would on Shabbos?
Picking out clothes, picking out, from the drawer, different colors that are mixed together, and you're separating what you want. You're saying, could you do that on Yom Tov? You're saying, because you could have done it before Yom Tov, you're saying?
Yeah. Like, should you pick out your clothes that you most likely will
Okay,
want to wear?
so that would be the same like Shabbos. The same rules, which, what are the rules on Shabbos? It's for now, not the night before. Very good. So the night before, you cannot start separating, picking out the clothes you want, because you're not getting dressed now, going to sleep. For example. Now, when we serve salad, there's what's called a perforated spoon. Right, perforated spoon with holes in it. Serve salad so you don't get all the sauce into your fish. People like that fish with spray, not fish with the sauce of the salad, right? So you have, yeah. So are you allowed to use that on Yom Tov?
Yes.
You're not allowed to separate on Yom Tov, right? So are you allowed to use, you're separating it, and it's a designated utensil to separate. Could you use that on Yom Tov?
Yes, fish tastes better. So
Yes, because it's not something you couldn't have done it before Yom Tov, right? Obviously, something that you need to do now. So it's okay, you're allowed to do it. But the interesting thing is, even though we allow you to use a designated utensil for separating on Yom Tov, but we don't allow you to soak it. In other words, if you are doing separating via soaking, let's say you want to soak something in the salad to separate the bugs from the vegetable, or whatever it is, or something fell, all the foods fell on the floor, all dirty, you're gonna put it into a bowl with water, and by sitting in the bowl, it's gonna separate. That Chacham do not allow us. Chacham felt it goes to the category what's called undin lechil, weekday activity. That was privilege. So you see, when it comes to separating, you really have to know what you're doing. Say yes, say no.
So we could peel a sweet potato, but we couldn't soak it in water and wash it, like get the dirt off like that?
Correct. Very good. You're on target. Now, what about the malacha of dash, which is extracting, separating, squeezing lemon into salad? Now I'm going to squeeze lemon into salad. I mean, something you're allowed to squeeze. Actually, you're not allowed to squeeze lemons. But you're allowed to squeeze it into salad on Shabbos, right? Gives some taste into the salad. You're allowed to squeeze directly into the salad. But if you're not squeezing it into salad, squeezing it into tea, then you're not allowed on Shabbos. How does that apply to Yom Tov? According to there are opinions that are lenient. I've seen do it not in a regular way. The Alter Rebbe is very strict. The Alter Rebbe says it's the same like Shabbos. So it's whatever rule you have in terms for Shabbos that you squeeze the lemon, you cannot squeeze it into a bowl and then into the salad. You squeeze the lemon directly into the salad, the same applies to Yom Tov. No difference. You cannot squeeze lemon into your tea on Yom Tov. You're allowed to cook, but you can take the lemon and squeeze it into your tea on Yom Tov.
squeeze the lemon to your dish right before serving, right?
The same like Shabbos. It's like Shabbos. In other words, when it comes to extracting, it's the same like Shabbos. What about grinding? There's the malacha of grinding, which practically refers to cutting a vegetable salad very, very thin. When it comes to Shabbos, as you're familiar, we are careful. We don't cut it, dice it very, very thin. We make it slightly thicker slices. We don't cut thin, right? For Shabbos. What happens Yom Tov?
Say one shot. Or no? Oh, I'm taking my answer.
Very good. Good. Yes, you're. The same reason why you're allowed to separate it when it comes to vegetable salad, because it tastes better when you do it on Yom Tov than doing it before Yom Tov. The same with the vegetable, the same with cutting very thin. This is the way you want to make a vegetable salad. You want to make it very thin. Now, you could have done it before Yom Tov. It wouldn't taste as good. Because there's an advantage doing it on Yom Tov. Again, you could cut it very, very thin on Yom Tov. That's the way you want to eat it. You can't say, well, who said it doesn't matter? That's how you want to do it. And it's something that if you do before Yom Tov, the vegetable salad wouldn't be so fresh. So you cut it thin without a problem. But this doesn't apply to spices. You have you know those spices that you turn and you grind spices? Well, if you do it before Yom Tov, the spices wouldn't be so fresh. Come on, it's like not much of a difference when it comes to spices. There's a slight difference with having, yeah, there is. Shulchan brings down, but it's not enough to allow you to grind spice on Yom Tov. So to grind the spice on Yom Tov, that answer is no, you cannot do that on Yom Tov. Unless you do it with a shinui. You do it in an irregular way. What's irregular way? So you got to figure out what's irregular way. If you grind it and instead of falling into the food, it's going to fall into the table. You're going to say, hey, that's ridiculous. I don't want to do it that way. Yeah, so don't do it. Not telling you have to do it. We're saying this is how you're allowed to do it. If you do it with a shinui in an unusual way, you let it go onto the table.
Or in the bowl.
Yeah, onto the you put on a paper. I don't know about the paper. That's really now you're making it work a little better. I'm not sure. It's a good question. I'm not sure if it works thing on a paper. It says on the table. On the paper, so now the paper is kind of like a bowl. Could you do it into a bowl? That's how people grind. They grind into a bowl, into a keli, into a vessel. Now you want to use the paper, transform it into a vessel. You're making it the regular way already, close to regular. On the table, it's like you have to like scoop it down. So I'm not sure about putting it on the paper. By the way, you said the word paper, and you should be aware, a blank piece of paper is muktzah. So you're not talking about blank paper. I don't think you're right. That's muktzah on Shabbos and Yom Tov. Yeah.
About mukta as a paper, in the end of the last year, it's not fair. They now know it from the beginning. Because when we learned about mukta, we were all shocked that last year in the end, we learned like all the mukta, and we found out that the paper.
So it's fabric.
And now
So
we're
it's
like,
fabric.
all the secret.
It's a shame. We'll get to it. We'll get to it again. Yeah.
Fabric is also muktzah, correct?
Fabric?
Yeah.
What kind of like loose fabric?
Also, I'm the seamstress.
Material that has no it's not made into anything. Just anything that has no function will become muktzah.
So if I have scrap fabric that I cut with the intention of using it as bookmarks on Shabbos, can I use them as bookmarks on Shabbos, or are they muktzah?
Yeah, anything that's designated permanently for a use will become useful. Won't be muktzah. You have to designate it permanently for that purpose.
Can I redesignate them to stuffing pillows in the future? If I'm like, I
Permanently
don't
does
need,
not mean that I promise for the rest of my life I will never use for anything else. That's not what permanently means. Permanently means as of now, this is what it's for. I might decide a year later to change it, but not right now. It's not temporary. It's designated for this, and then it's not muktzah. Okay, we already discussed. I mentioned on the class about cooking. If anyone remembers, what can't you cook on Yom Tov? There's something that you cannot cook on Yom Tov. You mentioned it in class.
water.
No,
Water. We mentioned something that you cannot cook on Yom Tov because there's no advantage to cook it on Yom
Oh,
Tov.
fruit, chocolate.
Fruit,
What?
but right. Fruit soup. You can't make fruit soup on Yom Tov. Why? There's no advantage doing it on Yom Tov. It tastes better when you do it on Yom Tov. On the contrary, if anything these days it's better before because you can refrigerate it. It's much better. So you cannot actually cook it on Yom Tov. Not allowed. Now, what about the malacha of, when we put salt on salads on Shabbos, we dilute it with oil. You familiar with that? We don't think the salt can have an effect on the salad. So you're putting salt onto this, making a vegetable salad, you right away should dilute it with oil or vinegar. So it shouldn't have any effect, because technically salt, if you leave for a long amount of time, it could change the, it could change
The composition.
the composition, it could change make it softer, harder. A short amount of time that has no effect, but because it does have that effect, so many people say even for a short amount of time, it's doing something, so you have to immediately wash it off with vinegar or oil, you can't leave it there. Right? That's Shabbos. How is it applied to Yom Tov? So Yom Tov, Yom Tov, it's a machlokes. You see, every situation is a little different. It's not exact. Yom Tov is a machlokes. And the Alter Rebbe says halachically it's fine. You can do. You don't need to keep to the restriction of Shabbos. But the Alter Rebbe does say it's good to be strict. It's good. So over here, there's already a stringency. It's good to be strict and keep it the same like Shabbos, to dilute it with vinegar, oil, whatever. But halachically, you're not transgressing. If you don't do it that way, it's fine. It's okay. Fire. Make a fire on Yom Tov. As you know, you could make fire on Yom Tov, but what can't you do with fire on Yom Tov? You cannot lower it, you cannot strike a match. What do you do if you need another burner? So you have one burner and you need a second burner, you need another fire.
Yeah.
So how do you go from one? Could you put on the second one? And don't let if you have an electric starter. Put it on, you're starting a new fire. You can't do it that way. So what could you do?
You turn it on so the gas is coming out but not starting.
Very
Take a
good.
flame and transfer
Very
it.
good, very good, very good. So there is a way, and what I'm telling you now, if you're gonna try it on Yom Tov, make sure to practice before Yom Tov, okay? Basically, what you do is, if you have an electric starter, if you turn it in a certain position, it'll bypass the electric starter. So it won't start, but all you'll have is gas coming out, which you don't do because it's not good. But for 3 seconds, it's okay. And then you take a match, not a used match. Don't take a used match because it's toxic. Take a new match and light from here, and then you're gonna bypass the electric starter and light it. Now, there's a drawback here that you might end up making a fire too big. That's why you want to practice it for Yom Tov. Make sure you know, because you can't make it lower. Generally, there are exceptions which we'll talk about. They could make it lower, but generally speaking, you cannot make the fire lower. Now, that's if it's an electric starter. If you have the old, anyone has the old stove tops, we don't need to talk about it. If it's the old, if it's just gas.
Yeah.
If it's gas, so then you have a gas pilot. Right, so when you're lighting it, it's the fire is coming from it's not creating a new fire. Because it's coming from the gas pilot. There's a little fire there burning, but the fire is coming from there. So you're not creating a new fire. So if you have the old-fashioned gas pilot stovetops, then there's no problem. Shaipa. That's something?
Yeah, but if you have very new, on the contrary, very new ovens, and it's like, yeah, actually, my question is that it's study to, I forgot.